January 2026. The manga is on hiatus, and while everyone is talking about Ricardo Martinez and Sendo, they're missing the actual monster growing in the basement of the Kamogawa Gym. We've spent the last 300 chapters calling Itagaki Manabu a prodigy in a slump. We've called him a joke merchant, or rather I called him that in my mind. But look at his eyes in this chapter. That is not a slump, bro. That looks like starvation to me. Itagaki is a Ferrari being used to haul manure and fish bait at a fishing boat rental shop. And he's finally reaching his breaking point. Today I'm going to talk about the Kamogawa Gym betrayal. Now look, I know I've said Imai would be Ippo's first comeback opponent. Logically that makes sense. But the more I look at the narrative, the more I realize that Itagaki is a loose thread that needs to be pulled. Remember this panel? Itagaki reaching for Ippo's head. This was not a joke. I think this was foreshadowing. Let's talk science. Itagaki does not have just fast reflexes. He has hyperperception. In his peak state, his brain is processing information so fast that the world literally slows down. He's like the story of Icarus, and for the last years, he's been flying way too close to the sun. See, Ippo is no longer just the wind. He is a source of infinite gravitational heat. To a genius like Itagaki, seeing Ippo quote-unquote play at being a second is an insult. It's like watching a CEO pretend to be a janitor. And the real villain here is none other than Coach Shinoda. Shinoda is a participation trophy coach. Itagaki is a Formula 1 race car. He needs a technician, not a cheerleader. Every time Itagaki fails, Shinoda tells him to have fun. Meanwhile, Kamogawa is in the other corner teaching Takamura the logic of destruction. Itagaki knows that as long as he stays at the Kamogawa Boxing Gym, he will never be the alpha. So, where does he go? In my streams, I've mentioned Mashiba's gym, but there's a darker and more surgical option, Sawamura Ryohei. Sawamura is the only man who truly understands the genius burden. He was the ultimate counterpuncher, a man who probably saw the world in slow motion just like Itagaki. Under Sawamura, Itagaki is going to learn scientific malice. And we have to talk about the Kumi factor, because this is where the history of the manga starts to repeat itself in a sick way. We are seeing a modern-day echo of Kamogawa and Nekota. Remember Yuki? The girl wanted Kamogawa bad. But Nekota's love for her was so raw and so selfish that he wanted her for himself, even if it meant competing with his best friend. Itagaki is in that same Nekota headspace. He sees Kumi waiting for Ippo, but he is becoming so selfish, so consumed by his own starvation, that he wants Ippo's life, the belt, the respect, and the girl. He wants to take it all. In 2026 or maybe 2027, the nice guy mask is slipping. He is going to join another gym, whether it's Mashiba's or Sawamura's, specifically to force Ippo's hands. He needs to reach for that head and actually touch it this time. Ippo needs a return match to prove his new IQ works. What's more poetic than Ippo having to crush his own student? Ippo is going to have to do to Itagaki what Ricardo did to Wally. He is going to show him that speed is meaningless against absolute logic. But here is the closure. After Ippo executes Itagaki's ego, Itagaki will finally be purified. He'll lose the fake wings, hit the ground, and finally find the grit he needs to surgically destroy Kyosuke Imai for the Japanese title. He beats the shadow of Ippo to finally step into his own lights. Itagaki Manabu is not in a slump, guys. He's the sacrifice. He might be the very first person who's going to find out exactly how scary the retired Ippo really is. Tell me in the comments, is Sawamura or maybe Mashiba the perfect fit for Itagaki? As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.